We're back now with Dr. Rick Marshall, whose new book arrives in stores tomorrow. This theory of yours, what exactly is that?
Two simple words: time warps.
You've spent $50 million of your money studying time warps?
No, that's adorable. No, taxpayers' money.
Something's happening.
This is an earthquake! Did we go back in time?
Yes, and space.
Friends?
Smells good.
You realize what this means?
Hello guys and welcome back to Cult Classic Recaps. Today we are going to review the movie Land of the Lost, but before we begin don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment on the video. So let's begin. The movie starts with an astronaut crash landing on a mysterious island calling Mission Control for help. The astronaut hears a loud roar coming towards him and he starts to run. The astronaut stops as a menacing creature comes close towards him and roars. The movie cuts to Dr. Rick Marshall, who studies quantum paleontology on the Today Show. He explains his research regarding time warps helping the fossil fuel crisis. Rick explains everything in his book. Rick tells the interviewer that he has spent $50 million in research for this. The interviewer tells Rick his research is nonsense and a waste of money and resources. The interviewer tells Rick that he is irresponsible and brings up his critics of his research, including the very famous scientist Stephen Hawking. Rick becomes upset and leaves the interview. He then comes back and tries to attack the interviewer. 3 years later, Rick is in a classroom giving a lecture about tachyon subatomic particles. Rick explains that they are so fast they can travel backward in time. He tells his audience about the tachyon amplifier, which will make it possible to travel sideways in time to another dimension where past, present, and future all meet. Sadly, his audience doesn't seem to care. They are a bunch of kids on a field trip that make fun of him and taunt his research. Rick then tells the class they are dismissed. Getting a job at the museum was the only job he could get after his interview fiasco on the Today Show. A woman named Holly Cantrell enters the classroom and tells Rick his research and theories inspired her. She tells him that his controversial theories combining time warps and paleontology inspired her. She shows him a fossil with an imprint of a cigarette lighter that he recognizes as his own, along with a crystal made into a necklace that gives off strong tachyon energy. The next day she finds him lying on the floor in his office waking up from a food coma. He told her he stayed up very late eating junk food but finished the tachyon amplifier. The amplifier is built with random household objects and some of the data has leftover show tune songs. He hasn't been brave enough to test out the amplifier, so Holly takes him to the desert where she found the fossil. When they get there they find that the cave where she found the fossil has been turned into a tourist attraction and gift shop. The two enter the gift shop and are introduced to Will, an employee of the gift shop who tries to sell them random items from the store. They tell him they want a tour through the cave. During the tour, Rick detects high levels of tachyon energy. Rick activates the tachyon amplifier, which triggers an earthquake, and the tachyon amplifier falls into the water. The waters turn more aggressive and they are pushed to the back of the cave. They fall into a water vortex which brings them to an interdimensional desert, filled with items from many eras. In shock and disbelief, Rick is excited that his theories and research have been found to be true this whole time. They then realize that they need to find the tachyon amplifier to come home. They hear a loud noise and go and investigate. They see two primate creatures about to kill another primate creature. They rescue the primate and he introduces himself as Chaka. Rick tries to help Chaka with his wounded leg, but Chaka becomes scared and leaves. The trio runs after him and ends up falling into a sandpit that puts them into an underground cave filled with bones. Sentient vines come behind them and grab them and hang them on a tree. The trio then tries to swing from side to side to try to reach the trunk. They then hear a loud thumping noise approaching. A T-Rex then appears and tries to eat them, but he misses them and chomps on the vines instead, cutting them loose. The trio runs for safety through the jungle but stops to take a picture of the T-Rex for proof. Then continue to run until they make their way into a mountain. Chaka crosses a bridge and tries to destroy it to stop the dinosaur. The trio runs quickly so they are not left behind. The T-Rex follows them to a cave but realizes he is too big to follow them in and he gives up for good. Now safe in the cave, Will tells Rick that the T-Rex is after him because he said the T-Rex brain is the size of a walnut. The trio decide they will camp out in the cave for the night. Meanwhile, Will wants to put some boxes up to block the entrance into the cave. Rick reminds Will that dinosaur brains are the size of walnuts. Suddenly they hear a loud noise and the cave begins to shake. They look outside and see a giant walnut that the T-Rex has thrown at them. The next morning 𝐄𝐘𝐒 brings them food for breakfast as a sign of friendship. The cave starts to shake again. The trio runs outside to see what it is. A bright light appears in the jungle, then Rick receives a telepathic message begging for help and finds himself running through the jungle and finding an ancient temple full of statues and a crystal obelisk that's been sending the messages to Rick. 𝐄𝐘𝐒 tries to warn them of the creatures hiding in the background, but they cannot understand it. These lizard-like beings come out of the shadows and start to surround the group. Holly takes off her belt in an attempt to use it as a weapon. That gives Rick an idea. He uses the belt buckle to reflect sunlight on the statues and obelisk. They open up a portal which they can enter, but the creatures cannot. They are then introduced to 𝐸𝐏𝐄𝐒. He explains to them that the creatures they saw are called 𝐔𝐶stacks. They are trying to take over the world by using the power of the crystals. To defeat them he needs the 𝐇𝐎𝐏𝐄 amplifier. To unleash the full power of the crystals, he can also send them home. Will tells them he doesn't trust 𝐸𝐏𝐄𝐒 and he could be up to something bad. Rick ignores Will and accepts 𝐸𝐏𝐄𝐒's help. The trio goes back into the jungle where Rick makes a miniature map of the area to try to form a plan to get the amplifier. The first step is to gather dinosaur urine he has gathered overnight to cover up their human scent. 𝐄𝐘𝐒 arrives and asks them to follow him to some clues he has found. The group stumbles across a desert with many things from across time, and also encountering many dinosaurs. These dinosaurs are battling it out over an ice cream truck. In the midst of them fighting, the dinosaurs spot Rick and the crew and starts to chase them. Rick finds liquid nitrogen and catapults it in the dinosaur's mouth. The liquid nitrogen makes the dinosaur explode, and then finding the amplifier was eaten by the dinosaur. The smaller dinosaur then steals it as it is running. Then a flying dinosaur takes it and flies it to its nest. Rick becomes frustrated and starts to give up. Holly becomes disappointed in him because she has thrown away her future in science for this expedition. The group goes back to the jungle to camp for the night. Holly translates what 𝐄𝐘𝐒 is saying about his life. He misses his tribe, which is nomadic and live where food is. Their little chat is interrupted by Rick. He has some time to think and does not want to give up on the mission. The next morning Rick guides the group to the volcano where the flying dinosaur took the 𝐇𝐎𝐏𝐄 amplifier. Rick lightly steps through the dinosaur eggs to retrieve the amplifier in the nest, which has been playing music all along. When he reaches it, it stops playing the music. The eggs begin to hatch, and they realize the music was keeping the baby dinosaurs asleep. Rick, Will and Holly belt out a show tune, with 𝐄𝐘𝐒 joining in, displaying a great singing voice, much to Rick's surprise. Rick, Will, Holly, and 𝐄𝐘𝐒 return to the desert to celebrate their success. They have some fun in the pool and 𝐄𝐘𝐒 brings fruit to Will and Rick. 𝐄𝐘𝐒 tells them it is a tradition in his village to celebrate with the fruits. The fruits turn out to have psychedelic effects. While the three of them wait for the effects to pass, Holly takes the 𝐇𝐎𝐄 amplifier and turns it on. It makes another crystal obelisk appear in the middle of the desert. She enters it to find a cave inside with dinosaur eggs. A hologram appears and learns from a recording left by a 𝐔𝐶stack named Zarn that 𝐸𝐏𝐄𝐒 is lying. He is the one planning the Earth invasion and needs the crystals to do so. Before she can tell her friends about what is going on, she is captured by 𝐔𝐶stacks. Meanwhile, the guys fell asleep after eating a giant crab that fell into a hot spring and got boiled. The next morning they realize Holly is gone and they begin to look for her. Will and Rick explore the obelisk cave and find 𝐔𝐶stack guards shedding their skin. Will and Rick dress up in their skin to blend in and find Holly. They follow the creature to where Holly is at and find her in a cage about to be lowered in lava for helping 𝐸𝐏𝐄𝐒. So now Rick and Will know the truth about 𝐸𝐏𝐄𝐒 as well. The 𝐔𝐶stacks want to capture them too, but Rick jumps on the cage swinging from side to side, hitting the 𝐔𝐶stacks and pushing them into the lava. The two of them jump out of the cage before it falls and they kiss. Will tells them to hurry up and leave before 𝐸𝐏𝐄𝐒 finds them. 𝐸𝐏𝐄𝐒 then appears with an army of 𝐔𝐶stacks he is mind controlled with the crystals. 𝐄𝐘𝐒 brings the T-Rex. He joins the others to defeat the 𝐔𝐶stack army and confront 𝐸𝐏𝐄𝐒. After the crystal's link between the land of the lost and Earth is shattered, 𝐸𝐏𝐄𝐒 reveals the portal will close forever. Thinking fast, Rick grabs Holly's crystal, inserting it into the port. Knowing the substitute crystal won't hold for long, they leave quickly. Will chooses to stay with 𝐄𝐘𝐒 and live with his tribe. Rick and Holly return back to Earth to the tourist cave site. A year later, a triumphant Rick reappears on the Today Show with the dinosaur egg. Holly brought back, promoting his new book, named after the interviewer who insulted him before. The interviewer gets upset and attacks Rick. Later after the show, the egg left behind on the Today Show set hatches a baby Sleestack. Thanks for watching Cult Classic Recaps. Please don't forget to like and subscribe if you want.